All right, let's turn to this. Wall Street Journal reporting Beijing plans a new training facility in Cuba, raising prospects of Chinese troops on America's doorstep. Let's welcome to the show from House China Select Committee, Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. Congresswoman, this sounds like a massive problem to me. Do you view it that way, number one? And number two, is there anything that we can do at this point to stop it?
Well, clearly, China has been emboldened by the reactions that we've had as a country in terms of our foreign policy. But the way I see it, President Biden's appeasement tour continues. We are showing them weakness. We need to show them strength. And that's exactly my take on it is we've allowed them to do this. We had no wins when Secretary Blinken went over to China and met with President Xi. He left without any accountability for them sailing one of their warships in a path of one of our ships. No accountability for the balloon and no accountability for even talking about setting up a spy operation 90 miles from our shores. So that's what this comes down to. We need to be exhibiting strength. That's what bullies respond to, and so that's what I would expect the administration to do, and that I would call on them to do going forward.
Let's talk about that balloon for a second. Former President Trump on special report last night saying how the Chinese spy balloon that spent a week over the U.S. in early February wouldn't have happened under his administration. Watch this.
They wouldn't have ever had a spy balloon if I was president. There wouldn't be a spy balloon over our country. They've taken pictures of every one of our nuclear facilities in the Midwest, where we have a lot, where they know better than anybody that we have a lot.
And you're saying that wouldn't happen under you?
They wouldn't have ever done it, no. They wouldn't have ever done it, no. President Xi and I had a very strong relationship.
Congresswoman, based on how strongly former President Trump dealt with China, I kind of am inclined to agree with him on that. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, President Trump showed China what strength looks like here in the United States. He showed him that we're not afraid to put on economic sanctions and make them feel the pain for their malign activities. But let's be frank here. The status quo is dangerous. We cannot continue to look at the status quo as the option. We need to be looking at serious options here, whether that is economic policy. China should not be allowed, for example, to own another acre of American farmland. We need to make sure we are making it very clear to them, whether it's militarily, economic, that we are not going to tolerate this aggression and these malign activities as Americans.
You mentioned Secretary of State Antony Blinken's trip to China this week. President Biden told reporters he thought Blinken did, quote, a hell of a job, but there's some brutal op-ed headlines out there. And I think a lot of people look at that trip, and to your point about being strong, about advancing an agenda, it looked more like a photo op. What did you make of this latest effort by Blinken to get something done with China?
Well, again, it comes down to we need to show them that we are willing to hold them accountable. And I feel like that was a complete failure out of Secretary Blinken's trip. Again, all of these instances that we've spent the last couple minutes talking about, the aggression that we're seeing militarily in Cuba, these spy operations, the stations that they've set up in cities like New York to spy on not only Americans, but harass their own citizens here. There was no accountability for all of that laundry list of malign activities out of the CCP and President Xi's regime. So that's what we need. That's what I would call on, again, this administration to do is to step up, show China we mean business, and we're not going to tolerate this. We want to deter. That is our main goal, is to deter conflict going forward. You don't do that through showing weakness.
Well, you know, there's other reports now that China's economy is actually experiencing some weakness. It would seem like a good time on the economic front to draw some hard lines, but you really don't see or hear much from the administration on de-risking, decoupling, call it what you want. Is that the way to get leverage most quickly with China right now?
Well, and that's why our committee has been so deliberate in working with the private sector to talk about what policy solutions might be on the table there. I don't think a full decoupling across the board is feasible, but we do need to be thinking about, for national security reasons, what can we bring home here? And that will inflict pain on them. We need all these countries as a trading partner, but we can continue to enhance our relationships in the region with other countries that we consider to be allies. So I think that's our next step. We've been weak on trade. We've been weak on diplomacy. We need to show that strength, and so that's what our next step is: economic, military strength, and we need to showcase that as Americans.
Look, make a move. Don't just show up for a photo op. We got to leave it there. Congresswoman Ashley Hinson, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.